Episode 476 of the TV Dudes, recorded February 29th, 2024. Avatar: The Last Airbender. This week, we're diving into the new live-action Netflix adaptation of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Fans of the original series have been champing at the bit to hate this. I'm sorry, waiting for this to drop.
It can be truly difficult to wait so long to dislike something.
True. But since I was never really plugged into the original show and nobody was into the Shyamalan movie, we'll see if maybe, I was grabbed by this iteration. And as a fan of the source material, let's see if you liked it at all. But before all that, I'm Les.
And I'm Nick. And we're the TV Dudes.
I don't know about you, Nick, but I watched a bunch of TV this week. What's in the diary?
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
Oh, what are we bending in the diary today? I wish I could say I was tempted to go back and watch some original of the Avatar: The Last Airbender series, but I figured I'd wait, and since I thought like it's now more likely I can get you to grab onto a rewatch.
We'll find out about that. We'll see about that.
But otherwise, I watched like I'm finished off on Ghosts season 2. I think the last time we talked, I watched most of it, and then now I've watched all of it.
Yeah. So now you're with the rest of us. You're just waiting on the next week's to drop, which is a frustrating spot to be in the land of binge TV.
I also watched. Facebook has not been showing me Blue Bloods or Law and Order anymore. Now it's showing me I guess I clicked one Game of Thrones video and now it's Game of Thrones scenes, which actually are, ever since the finale, I have not had the urge to go back and rewatch like I did before it's so funny, before the finale came out, I would rewatch Game of Thrones seasons. I think I rewatched it 3 times or whatever whenever the new season would come out, because I really did. It was a great show, and watching it on Facebook, just scenes, as scenes go, and I'm like, wow, scene by scene, this is some of the best writing. This was prestige TV. Dinklage is fucking killing it.
Yeah,
it's like some of his best work.
Let's not discuss which part should and shouldn't have gone to Dinklage.
But it really does show me that I'm like, oh yeah, scene by scene, this is some of the best television writing I've ever seen. But the overall, I still don't really have an urge I kind of go back and watch certain scenes, but now watching I don't want to go back and watch all of it because I know what does and does not pay off.
Oh, this is cool, and it ties to another thing, and in between there's a lot of show.
Man, that Lord of Light thing, I know you know what I'm talking about it, but it goes nowhere by the end of it, and it seems so important through
I think this is how earlier this week you and I got into a discussion about Lost.
Oh yeah,
and just frustrating things that man, it's not that you didn't answer that, it's that you made it inconsequential when it felt really
Dude, did
important.
Grant even finish his rewatch of Lost?
I don't know. Grant loves Lost. You cannot bring up the end of Lost to him. It's flawless, and he will explain to you why.
Man, that was one thing about Game of Thrones, is that it seemed unanimous that the ending was everyone seemed
by the time we hit the Starbucks cup on the table,
everyone
anybody was
everyone
arguing.
seemed on the same page, and we're mad at the seemingly the right people. We were all mad at Benioff and Weiss,
right?
Because they kind of fucked off.
Literally took their eye off this ball. Now, hear me out. Blue Bloods is about to end. A Blue Blood style show, but like Game of Thrones.
Oh boy,
about an incredibly incestuous family.
Sure, and
their rise through the ranks to take over the New York Police Department.
So, White Bloods.
Yes.
Yeah, they're instead of police force, they're just newly members of the White Walkers.
It's the Walker family.
Oh boy. Speaking of drinking and knowing things, I will also watch Drunk History.
Oh, man, that's okay. We should have a Segway Hall of Fame. It's one of the best.
It's not bad.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I'm gonna say I was pretty proud of it when I thought of it.
Well played,
I'm
sir.
gonna do my own horn. I watched, and you watched some of these with
I
me.
watched some with you. Yeah. I caught the Molassacre one with Mark Gagliani.
I was watching some of them as I was sick. So I was watching them as I was either sleeping or just in the tub or like just basically with my eyes closed, which is actually not a great way to watch drunk history.
You're missing a lot of
no,
the
you're
goofiness.
missing. No, the whole point of it is the reenactment of the drunk story. That's the charm of it.
You're just getting a bunch of half sentences and gag noises.
Yeah, no, it's not a good show for that, I don't think. But I watched the one with food, which was fun. Like the mob after Prohibition ended,
Mm-hmm.
they had an artichoke monopoly.
Yes.
That was pretty fun.
Hilariously weird.
That was real weird.
We'll take these artichokes.
Also, the Boston molasses massacre, like the molasses people drowned in molasses
it's a
thing.
molasses flood. Drowned some horses, man.
Oh my god, it was just what a horrible
bridle
way to
deep
die.
in molasses. That's too much molasses.
I also watched Spy Times Family, not like the new season. They haven't dubbed it yet, and just not in the spot to like even like I'm
You
in.
don't want to watch subtitled Japanese with your eyes closed from the bathtub.
I'm so not in the mood to work for TV now that like even watching new shit is
Come on,
like
TV. I'm not your maid.
Like I feel like I watched I don't know, maybe it's the TV. Is it a TV dudes phenomenon that once you are on TV dudes long enough, you kind of stop watching new shit that isn't the TV dudes homework?
It does feel like it.
Because I feel like I don't go out and like go out and search out for new things like I used to.
The phenomenon I found doing this is the weeks where, for whatever reason, I'm in the mood to watch literally like we could hit random on the remote as long as it is not the thing I'm supposed to watch. We're like, I don't know, man. Let's binge another 8 episodes of this. Man, aren't we supposed to start watching? God damn it.
Yeah. I get that. Oh, I watched The Lincoln Lawyer though.
The movie or the show?
The show.
It's really fun.
Yeah, it was another one that I kind of half paid attention to, but it's weird that it's episodic in its first half and then really focuses on the trial in its later half, which I thought was interesting.
Like you can see the big arc coming in the background, but like it just takes over. Yeah, I ended up getting more into that than I thought I would. I really enjoyed that show.
Well, I mean, it's a lawyer show, but it's an investigation show.
Right.
Like he's
It's
kind
got
of
a lot more
kind
PI
of a
to it.
detective, like his PI and all that.
It's different than the movie, but it was good in a different way. I enjoyed both the show and the movie.
Yeah, and then I think I watched Bullet Train with my eyes closed. Like a lot of sleeping and kind of listening to TV.
Like, it's a quiet car scene.
Yeah,
and we're out.
What'd you watch?
Lisa and I watched a couple of movies. Watched Blackberry with Jay Baruchel as the head of Research in Motion, the folks that made the Blackberry, and Glenn Howerton,
right,
in an amazing bald cap, or however they did that. Howerton's a wild man in it. Man, he owns that movie. No lie. Unfortunately, like it's a really fun movie because their story is insane. Like they blew up out of nowhere to own like 60% of the phone market or something bananas.
Yeah, it was theirs to lose until the iPhone
and they
came
lost
out.
it. Like, and the moment when the iPhone comes out and you watch them like squall and call it stupid and say it's not a threat and like you're playing this game from home, you know where this goes. Like this is their death knell. Like this is a nail in their. This is it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that movie just crashes and burns. It's like it's an interesting movie. It was fun to watch in portions, but their story just ends.
I think it was the same. Like it's so funny. That's such a lower stakes version, but it reminds me of when I watched Chernobyl and why I could only watch one episode of Chernobyl.
Like, I know where this goes, right?
Hey, do you taste metal? Oh my god,
man,
I gotta turn this off.
Yeah, it reminded me of Dumb Money, but no happy ending.
Oh, okay, sure.
Or Tetris, but no happy ending. Like again, like it fits the mold of all these other movies, except that they don't work out. Like it's like if the main character is like a 70s rock star that dies of heroin, you'd got to stop this movie at some point, or I'm gonna watch him die. Like, and that's the way. Like Blackberry's like, so we're gonna take this all the way through the story of the company. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
Still worth watching, man. Great performances. Basically, there's one dude that's kind of a dipshit throughout. He's the only one that makes it through clean. Like he comes out exactly the way you dug parachutes out of that company rich. There's one guy that gets treated really badly in the little crawl at the end of where everybody goes. You're like, holy shit, Doug did okay.
Yeah.
We also after that watched Next Goal Wins.
Yeah, that looked really cute.
It is really cute.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly what it is. It's Taika Waititi, so it's like goofier than even whatever you think. It's goofier.
Sure.
It's got a Cool Runnings vibe. They're, white dude teaching these guys a sport that they clearly don't mean to play very well. And yeah, there's you see some actors you recognize, like little cameos here and there. All in all, just like a cute, heartwarming movie. Like I feel like my parents would have dropped me off in the afternoon to see this at the movie theater when I was like 7 or 8. Like Disney should have put this out.
Yeah.
Like absolutely, it really cute, worth watching.
It did remind me, it was like a sports Disney movie. Could you imagine if Taika Waititi was just in the reins of a Disney movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of a major Disney release.
Right. Like if like Little Giants had been
much
Taika
less
Waititi
two of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so enjoyed that. Of course, we watched Avatar on Netflix, which we'll discuss. Watched Fargo season 1, which I'm still working my way through, but is a trip. I still, weirdly, for the season of Fargo that I have heard most about, it's not my least favorite. I still haven't been able to get into the Chris Rock season, but it's, man, other seasons of Fargo are just as strong or stronger. If people watched season 1 and thought that show fell off because they checked back in on like season 4, give it another shot.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's
Don't
good.
you know?
It's good, but it lacks a little. Maybe it's that I don't think Martin Freeman is that the yeah, I don't think he's as a great as protagonist as either Jesse Plemons and Kristen Dunst are in the second season, or Juno Temple is in the fourth,
or even the Ewan McGregor in 2 roles.
Yeah,
which was also good. And
or fifth? Was it Juno Temple's fifth season?
No, I'm blanking on. Yeah, Juno Temple's in the fifth season.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're all good though. I mean, God, after all this, once you're in the groove of it, the show really chugs along on all the seasons. I'm kind of wondering if I flow straight into it, will the Chris Rock season hit me different?
I suppose in the first season you're supposed to be on the side of the sheriff or the female deputy. That is obviously supposed to be getting the chief job, but the chief gets killed in like Ep 1, and she gets fucked over by Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And Carrie, it didn't grab me as quick, but all the seasons have grabbed me. And so yeah, I'm eager to keep finishing this out. Also, finally, somehow last night, I was as shocked as anyone, I reached the end of Bob's Burgers. There is such a place, and I've been there. Somewhere in season 14, I think it was like around episode 11, it offered me a different show, and I did not accept. I want more Bob's Burgers. I'm mad about being at the end of this. I thought I was halfway through for a year. There is still a movie. It is only on something called cable. I'm not going there. So, yeah, I guess we'll just have to rent that thing. Either way, watched a bunch of Bob's Burgers. I don't quite want to restart it yet, but I'm sure that won't take long. Also, when I ran out of stuff to watch in that regard, turned on Resident Alien with Alan Tudyk.
Yep.
Which I remember watching and enjoying season 1, even though that show's got a weird tone and it was hard to get into.
I also watched and enjoyed season 1 and kind of don't remember anything about it.
Yeah, so I've been rewatching it and catching myself up and like, oh, that's right, that's genius. Oh, that's right, that's great. Tudyk's fucking perfect casting here. All of season 2, I believe, is out and done and there for me. So that's kind of why I restarted it. And it's been fun. Lighthearted, goofy show. Makes some wacky decisions as far as their aliens in their town. I forgot some of the in-jokes and just how weird their sheriff and man, you could call me Big Black. I don't think I can do that.
No.
And then, of course, I watched a couple more episodes of the new reboot of Night Court, or continuation of Night Court,
right?
Which is doing something that we all love, running its episodes out of order. Like you do.
I forget that they still do that.
Yeah, and like they're jumbled weirdly. They keep changing clerks with no explanation as to the change or the introduction of the new person. And at first I thought it was just the episodes out of order. It's not.
They just don't.
Which honestly feels like the most Night Court thing they could be doing. Like, just change people out. Don't worry about it. Don't explain very well. It's wild. The show does have the guy that was Jay Dispersia, he was the PI for the firm on Good Wife and Good Place.
Oh, I
So,
thought
like
that
in the
was
last few seasons. Sarah Steele, he
Oh.
kind of trains up Sarah Steele.
No, yeah, you're right. I remember
Uh,
who you're talking about now. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
he joined as, like, I don't think that guy's a sitcom comic. He's got, it is sad, he's got better timing than some of the regulars on, like, he needs to stay around. He's faster and got some better timing than their other
I
regulars.
think he's only in Good Fight because he's
He's
part of
only
that.
in Good Fight.
Because he's part of that firm's.
Yes.
He's that firm's PI.
Yes,
if I remember. Yeah.
that's right. No, he doesn't. He's not in Good Wife. He's in Good Fight
Yeah.
only. But either way, he's fucking great at sitcom timing. I had no idea.
No,
Like,
great.
Dude can deliver some screwball jokes. And
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes the people just like Timothy Oliphant had like.
right, you would have no idea before
But
Santa Clarita died. The dude's got timing.
Well, if you there's no other place to like see it.
Right.
Like-
Cracking jokes. It's Seth Bullock. What a funny guy. No. So yeah, I think that's about all we watched this week.
All right. Well, that makes it the perfect moment to mention our Patreon. And the support. Oh
shit.
Oh shit.
I almost forgot.
Oh, shit.
We watched True Detective Night Country, talking about shows that you liked an earlier season and then fell off of.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not as good a segue as you did earlier. You gotta teach me your ways. I don't know how to segue bend yet.
Speaking of cold and destitute, like
Oh my
our
God.
like our Patreon page.
So the new season of True Detective, which has a like second title now, unlike any previous season, Night Country, Issa Lopez took over as the showrunner leader of this thing. She did a Fantastic Fest movie a few years ago called Tigers Are Not Afraid, about little kids in kind of a war-torn situation.
Sure.
That was real cool. Low budget. She got crazy good performances out of these kids.
Mhm.
Really, movie kind of sticks with you. And man, she's a great choice for this. She'd said in an interview that she felt like the first season was very daylit and masculine and like kind of had these themes and traits to it.
Uh-huh.
She wanted her season to basically be the opposite.
Uh-huh.
Night, cold, female.
Got it.
And damn, she did it.
Yeah. That all comes across.
So the setup of this one is that they're in Alaska. It has a couple of just really tenuous ties to the first season, as much as you want any anthology show to have. Fargo had the fringe jacket deaf guy that crosses through too. That's about all you want. That's about all you need. So
It
this
certainly
has-
takes place in the same universe, but
that's about it. You don't need to care about that. And they've got a murder from like 6 years ago of an activist in this town in Alaska, in the edge of the fucking world. And then you've got the murder now, or deaths now, of all these scientists at this research lab.
Mm-hmm.
And Jodie Foster is trying to solve them both. I did not expect to like this. I had not really put it on our list because I liked the first True Detective season, but I thought the ending shit the bed. I didn't watch the second or third.
I thought the first one was very good in its writing and character work, and then at the end decides like to be real nebulous about like what the fuck was the Yellow King? Like what was that?
Guess it's
Like
just
what was
nothing.
any of
Guess
that?
it's
Like
just the rednecks. Yeah.
like you had to go on YouTube for like theory and but if I have to go on YouTube for what do you put?
My Yellow King.
Your Yellow King. That's right. That's right for the listeners at home. We have a Yellow King statue, but
This thing is creepy. I'll put a picture of it up.
because like again, like what did you bring out when we were talking about Batman, and you just bring out you had the comic of like, oh, here's where Damian Wayne was conceived.
Oh yeah.
Like why is that like within reach? That's so weird.
Yes, man. I record in a weird room for sure.
like no, don't let me go to the room. I just have that here. Why?
There's also horror Christmas Bear. Well, yeah, we'll put pictures of all this stuff up.
But yeah, like when I have to go to YouTube to like understand what your ending was about, I feel like your fucking show or didn't pull that off.
Yeah, you may have done too much.
And then season 2 didn't even deliver on the first part of that, which was like actually good character work and dialogue and that sort of thing. And
yeah, you'd said season 2 just kind of felt theatrical and stiff.
What I liked about Night Country is that how even in the first season, I actually had this too, with Matthew McConaughey being very flowery in his language. And in season 2, it was also very like Vince Vaughn being this weird criminal that had to work with some of the cops or whatever. And I felt like, oh, they're all like, all those conversations felt like 2 minutes longer than they needed to be. Like everyone is talking around the issue or talking about talking around what they actually want to say and being clever about it. And what I like about Night Country is that every conversation is exactly as long as it needs to be, because everyone hates each other in this town and doesn't want to be talking to whoever they are talking to.
Man,
so they just want that
work for me as well as it
so
does.
They want the conversation to be
did.
so they get across the information and then a fuck you or whatever. And then the conversation's done and we move to the next scene.
And also in these really short conversations in Night Country, you get 3 or 4 hints at things about the past of these characters so quick.
They leave more up to
so
the
efficient.
They have more trust in the audience.
Yeah.
The Jodie Foster, it's never really stated out loud Jodie Foster sleeping with a bunch of these people.
But man, she's sleeping with the whole town and you just slowly get it.
But how people react and how they interact with her is like, oh, okay, you slept with this chick's husband, you slept with that guy, that's why he's being all awkward. It's what it is for a lot of these characters. Like you said, they don't outright say Pete is the other
Hank's son.
Hank's son,
yeah.
But it immediately comes across.
Yeah, I think they say it like, I don't know, 20 minutes later in the episode, somebody outright says it.
Yeah,
but it's still it can be treated as just nobody has to stop and do an exposition dump because you got it from the way Pete and Hank interact at work. That's definitely your son at work.
And I think that's a great way to do a mystery show, which I feel like this is more than even an investigation and detective show. This is a building mystery. Well, and so they like, I think it's even the metaphor for it would be Jodie Foster talking to Pete, the younger deputy, and she was always saying, "Ask the right question." You go, ask the question.
Ask the right question.
So she's skipping over. She's not answering questions that don't matter.
Yeah.
Skip forward to the conversation that matters.
That's a stupid question. I'm not answering it. Ask me something better. Yeah.
And the show does that.
Yes.
Which I think is great.
There's a parallel for solving the crime and then kind of solving the show, like the characters as well. And as long as you've got the audience in one mode, keep them there.
Right.
So it's like you're teaching me to look for clues because you're teaching me to look for clues in these people. So you've got Evangeline Navarro, Callie Reyes, Jodie Foster is Liz Danvers. Almost everybody in the town is weird, don't like each other. These are all people who have to live on the edge of nowhere, mostly because they've abandoned civilization for whatever reason, or they were born here and it's hard to leave.
Yeah, and they all acknowledge that even like 3 days or 5 days into just all night, people just get weird.
Yeah. Yeah, the cops all talk about it of like, yeah, get ready. It's only night 3. Like, it's only night 5.
Also, you got to deal with some locals that are like, you just don't have the backup as a cop that you would normally have in a more populated area.
Those are interesting moments. Like, every once in a while, the kind of stuff that happens in Justified, where like you realize you're the only cop and you are way deep into some hillbilly country and they could just kill you and vanish you. But even then, your uniform is a tether back to a real civilization that the power's really there. There's a couple of moments in Night Country where they walk out into like the nomad camp or something, and I'm as an audience member realizing, man, y'all aren't really cops out here. Like, you think that's a uniform, but like you said earlier, uniforms connote a lot of you.
Yeah, they portray numbers, which you don't have.
You don't have. Like, you are way out in the middle of the ice. I mean, we could just gypsy style or raw.
I'm staring at half the police force.
Right, right. Like the two. Like, hell, one of you is not even technically police. Yeah.
Yeah, one of you is a trooper.
Yeah. But like, we could definitely drop both of you into an ice hole, move this camp, and just be gone. And so I liked all the character building. I can't believe that setup of that kind of town hasn't been used more often. It's a really great setup. But then I dug the crime. Like all True Detective seasons, it wants to lean a little bit on, is this supernatural? And like True Detective, it's gonna not be.
Right. It's more hallucinations mixed with local lore and legend.
And also in that kind of, I'm tired of answering this question. There's plenty of people up here that are like, I don't know, you're just not going to solve it. I'd stop worrying about it. It's probably just, ghosts or something. Like, people are just ready to like, fuck it. You're not going to solve that.
They're in the Night Country now.
Yeah.
Or however they say
whatever the hell that. Yeah. So it's as far as actually, if you haven't watched this yet, it's all out. Nick and I are going to discuss the ending a little bit right now.
Okay.
What'd you think of them actually wrapping up the crime?
Well, the end episode does show me there are certain things I don't like about, well, not only just this season, but True Detective, which is, well, one, the soundtrack needs to back off just a smidge. Like
it's not quite as wild as The Rookie, just like hammering music in on you.
But like they're really trying to make scenes creepy and sad via the sound. I'm like, just back off a hair. Like by the time we got to a slow, creepy version of Twist and Shout, I was like, oh, okay. Like, calm down.
That felt very Fargo.
And then how the crime wraps up, which I think was, it's actually distractingly like simple.
Yeah. Which is how the first season wrapped up. Only I didn't feel as mad this time.
Because I can actually wrap it up like for you right here. Like the reason these two murders are connected is because the guys at the station murdered the first girl, and then their murder was a revenge killing.
Yes.
Boom. Done. And
it just looks so weird that you don't put that together immediately.
Well, yeah. Well, also they kill him in a pretty fucked up, weird way.
Just walking him out into the snow. And I like one of the ladies is even like, their clothes are right here. If the ice doesn't want to take them, they can walk back and get their clothes.
Which is not how hypothermia and delusions. Like once you turn your lights off, those guys are done.
They can never find those clothes again. I don't care how close by they were. They're in a blizzard. They'll never walk back there naked and find them.
Well, in blizzards and stuff, they have like ley lines to grab so you don't get lost.
Right, Martian style. Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I'm like, oh, well, no, those guys are fucked. Like,
yeah.
And yeah, that was really the cool part of the mystery was that, like, yeah, all this other stuff, all this creepy stuff can be explained, like them biting themselves, the being naked and or clawing on each other, that can be explained by hypothermia.
Burns. Yeah.
What it doesn't explain is why they're out there in the first place, and
why one of them has a spiral drawn on his foot.
Yeah, why anyone would go out in a blizzard without their shoes on? Like, it's because they were held at gunpoint and
made to do it.
Made to do it. But also, there's a level of some things, because I don't know which things are hallucinations, there's some things that I don't know if it does line up. The guy that Robert Clark, the one they actually find, the guy that got away, he has a seizure and says she's awake and runs down before the women come in. And I'm like, wait, how did he know?
When they show the women actually rushing in, I think it was, I think the timeline, I think the lights went off and the women came in and he ran.
Oh, I thought he said she's awake. Or
he does still say that. The only thing that makes that
he says she's awake, which is what they say later, and I'm like, but those two never interacted.
No, that feels supernatural.
Yeah, but there's a couple other things, like there's a polar bear with an eye missing.
Right. That keeps turning up. There's a cross on a necklace that Callie Reese Navarro throws out of her truck at one point, and then it shows back up in Foster's hair.
Because it reflects back on the doll that had the eye missing as well, and I think we for sure know the polar bear is actually there. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe she hallucinated the eye missing, or is it just a really weird coincidence that?
And I think it's disregarding the correct coincidences to get to the real things.
Right.
But it makes the show. It is part of what adds that, like, are you fucking with me? Is this really a mystery?
And those are more than like, because.
That's a knife edge. You're going to lose me if you tip too far on that.
Because the guy they actually, oh man, what a great scene when one of them in the pile is alive.
Oh gosh,
holy crap! And he wakes up later, and he starts to yell about Night Country or whatever, which makes sense. That's what they said.
That's where they murdered the girl.
That's where they murdered them. And when it's just Navarro in there, he gets very quiet and then says she's awake.
Yeah,
which is another thing that, like, oh. He shouldn't, but then I'm like, oh, was that her hallucinating?
Is that real? At one point midway through, I thought that they had found their bacteria they were looking for and that they were all just going insane from, like, that they had a contagion. Like, you guys found something that should have been sealed in the ice and it's made you crazy.
Yeah. Well, also, she's
like
not the only
parasite or something.
She's not the only one. Like, there's a bunch of people that are seeing stuff and they're just
you just roll with
chalking it up to the night. and cold and whatever. And so at the end, when we see Navarro with Jodie Foster, I'm also kind of like, is she there?
So there's two purposely ambiguous huge arguments in the show.
Yeah.
Issa Lopez has said in an interview that she believes Navarro's there.
Okay.
That she's alive, she's real. When she goes off on the ice and Foster has to come back and rescue Foster, who falls through. If she'd kept going at that point, she'd be lost. She comes back to rescue Foster, but then the next time we see her walk out onto the ice, she's already the crime's over. They've solved. She's buried Annie. She's accepted that the voices are gonna whisper to her, but maybe they don't need to destroy her. And so that Lopez felt that at that point, when she walks on the ice, she can come back. So she walks out onto the ice to show herself that she can for a moment, but then she comes. So like, there's a scene where you see her walk off, and then we see her later. In funny, the director's mind, she believes at that point it was a test of showing that I can go out there and come back.
I praise the show for leaving enough trust on the audience.
Yeah.
And then I'm like...
So that's an argument among the writers.
Some of it is ambiguous. I'm like, I guess that's what you mind. Like, it's not like the crime is ambiguous, so it's way better than season
That's
1.
Why I'm not mad at it, but also I wouldn't do those things.
Yeah.
I would nail it down. But you hear that a lot of like, I don't know, I want to leave that when the author's done speaking, the conversation from the audience. I'm not as sold on that. So there's an argument among the writers even as to whether Navarro survived.
Sure.
I got to go with it's real. Like that she's done being a trooper. She's done being a cop. I'm pretty sure she was done when she shot the dude.
Mm-hmm.
But she had to put Annie's murder to bed. Now she's done being a cop and living hiding out. That's what I thought. But the other mystery. So John Hawkes has said straight up that Hank cut out the tongue.
Okay.
But that would have been 6 years ago.
Yeah.
As not to leave the tongue anywhere, but to when the corpse was found, she's without her tongue. She's a mine protester.
Yeah.
So he did it to solidify the message to other protesters to shut the fuck up.
Sure.
And that makes sense. Like I can believe, even though we don't see that, I can believe that Hank cut that tongue out when he was first doing the job for the mine, because that's the thing that should have got him police chief.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the action that should have bought him.
That's the favor that he did that should have gotten him. Yeah.
As far as who put the tongue there 6 years later in the kitchen at Salal to connect the crimes, I would have done one of the two of these. I would have made absolutely sure everybody knows that Navarro's alive. That one not be ambiguous. I kind of don't mind because it's a tongue, because Annie's speaking from beyond the grave to connect these crimes.
Okay.
Like the one weird thing that you just have to, the X-Files style, like I can explain everything else. We just got to leave that bit off the report because it makes no sense.
You're right. Why did I not mind that? You're right. I like that. I like that ambiguity, but I don't like the other one.
That felt like the victim leaving a tiny bit of evidence to fuck you over 6 years later.
Maybe because one's a character ambiguity of like how her story ends, basically, and the other one is more of a plot thing,
right? But one of the two of them, it still doesn't tip the line for me. That's the thing, honestly, that shocked me most about this season is that it plays with that. Is it happening? Is it not? In a way that is not necessarily my favorite, but doesn't push me off the show. Yeah. Where season 1 almost did.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, because whether or not she walks off onto the ice is it's a part of like her character arc of the curse of her family, and whether or not she accepts it, I think that's a big deal and that we should nail it down.
Same. I want to see her not accept it and live through it.
Yeah. Because we know that they even asked the cleaners straight up that if they left the tongue, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't us.
Which I thought also made sense of like, oh, would they be the cleaners if they were also the cleaners for the police office, or even the dental service before
they could do a lot of stuff.
They could have a lot of, I kind of thought like that was where they were going with that.
I also, this is a show full of barely likable or straight up unlikable people that I also enjoy watching.
It's a like you said, it was a rare knife's edge that like I kept waiting for Jodie Foster to do something that I thought like would make her likable. Like,
Nah.
she's just a
No, she called her character the Alaskan Karen.
which I think is a little incorrect. Like
She's not quite
she's
a Karen.
not she's not complaining to anyone's manager. She
No.
is the manager.
No.
Like, but
She's yelling at everyone. And the way that she, as far as being a bad boss, the way that she straight up abuses Pete.
she is not good to Pete.
No.
She's not like
She also, man, as soon as it goes night all the time, she stops giving any fucks about schedule. I don't care if you thought you were going to bed. What time is it? What time do you think it is? No, back at work. Like it's insane.
Are you drunk? Yeah, you're right. I'm too drunk. Why don't you come and drive me, Pete? Fuck.
Damn it. It's Christmas. Yeah. I loved watching John Hawkes, and it was great to see him in this role. He's Saul on Deadwood, Seth's business partner on Deadwood. So it's always great to see him in Eastbound and Down, ton of stuff, Winter's Bone. I was really excited because I managed to snag an interview with John. And so folks can go listen to our interview with Hank Pryor himself, John Hawkes. We talk about shooting in Iceland, how freaking cold it was. He grew up in Minnesota, but left there when he was 19, so his blood had thinned. He was not ready for just how cold Iceland was going to be. But yeah, folks can go listen to that interview and then also go check out Night Country over on Max.
Indeed. All right, now feels like the perfect moment to remind everyone that you can support the TV Dudes at patreon.com/tvdudes. Just for $1 an episode, you can, help keep the lights on over here. Help us keep streaming services subscribed to, and we can watch even more stuff, including stuff that you can request, correct?
Indeed. For a measly $20, you can make us watch whatever you'd like. At least 4 episodes of it. We feel like that's enough to get into a show and decide if we want to keep watching it, but not so many that we get stuck watching, 20 seasons of 300 episodes each of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or something.
Right. But, even if you don't only support at the lowest level, $1 an episode, you get access to bonus content.
Yeah.
Well, like our bonus Patreon content every week. What is the content for this week?
This week, we are going to actually talk about the Mummy show that I had us watch on accident, Mummies Alive.
That's right.
We set out to watch the Brendan Fraser animated Mummy adaptation. This is what I accidentally found instead, and we ended up watching several episodes of an absolutely bananas anime-style team of super mummies protecting a kid named Presley.
Yeah. If Gargoyles was by way of Sailor Moon.
Yes. In fact, I think it caught hell for being kind of close to just a Gargoyles rip, which is, I'm sorry, that's a plus column. Like that's a bonus. So Mummies Alive, we'll be talking about that.
Well, I mean, it's funny because Gargoyles itself was made in response to Batman the Animated Series.
Right.
Like Disney wanted their own night vigilantes.
So we're one more step, and this is how we get Moon Knight.
Yes.
See?
Oh my God.
You do Batman to Gargoyles to Mummies Alive. To
actually found out that Disney owns the rights to Mummies Alive now. If they wanted, fucking Moon Knight could fight Mummies Alive.
Oh man,
it's not off the table.
I want Moon Knight and the Mummies as a team. Give me that West Coast Adventures. Come on now. But instead of chatting about all of that, this week we're going to talk about Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action adaptation over on Netflix.
The Fire Nation is embarked on a dark path, and the world might never recover. The world needs the Avatar. It needs you, Aang.
The Fire Nation has destroyed everything in their path. If the world is gonna have any chance, it's gonna need Aang.
Right. There goes the savior of the world.
I chased down every hint of the Avatar. It's my destiny.
I'm not someone who can stop the Fire Nation. I don't want the responsibility.
You don't have to do this alone. You have me, Tara, and a flying ball of fur. What more do you need?
like we should all decide on how the hell we're calling it, like what we're calling this, because there's got to be something else that added on so that is it enough to just say Netflix? There's been the Shyamalan movie, which nobody means to be talking about, the original animated series, which everybody holds as like a golden god above all else, and then there's Avatar: The Last Airbender. Netflix.
I guess you could call it the Netflix series. I think the only risk you have is that things nowadays get picked up by other streaming services and stuff all the time. Like what was the one we just recently
well, Brooklyn Nine-Nine just jumped over to Netflix, I think.
Brooklyn Nine, or no, I mean, jumped over to complete its series.
Yes, Girls 5F is about to jump to Netflix to complete, because Peacock dropped it.
So now it's the last couple seasons will be Netflix, but not the previous ones, and I think it's Lucifer.
Lucifer.
I don't know if there's a lot of things that jump from Netflix to another thing to be saved.
Not usually.
But so yeah, I would say maybe the live action series, because the other one's a movie, so live action series still works.
Yes. So ATLAB. So ATLAB.
Okay.
TNS. ATLAB TNS. ATLAB TNS. That's what we'll call it.
I suppose the original series would be Atla then. Atla. Okay. But yeah, you have not watched the cartoon.
I did not. I've seen episodes here and there. I've probably seen more single episodes of Legend of Korra than the actual Airbender series, original Airbender series.
Sure.
I've been told repeatedly that the writing is exceptional and that the arcs all really work. I just never wanted to groove on a 20 episode season.
Yeah, they're about 20 episodes a piece, I think.
And I didn't click into it, and so I didn't keep watching. I feel like that makes me probably the best audience for what Netflix is doing here.
Yeah.
Because I would hope that setting out to do this, your hope would be that you'd get people who don't want to watch who don't want to watch any cartoon, and show them these plot lines we've been hearing so much about that are great. And now, if you're hooked, maybe you'll go back and watch the slower, more, spend more time, more details, chill with characters, have Zuko alone for a whole episode, do other things.
Yeah, really develop character and go forward. Because this is only 6 episodes or 8 episodes. 8 episodes.
And even then, man, it is very much a part 1.
And they cover the first season, and they have to really speed a lot of stuff along.
And it should be said that they do not have a lock on a season 2. Netflix almost never announces that beforehand, and they have, even though it was the number 1 show for the last couple of weeks, I think the last week, they have not announced whether or not they have a season 2.
I think this has a better shot than Cowboy Bebop.
I think so.
But it doesn't have the critical, everyone loved One Piece. Everyone was shocked at One Piece.
Shocked at how much everybody loved.
So we're definitely getting more One Piece.
I
would say this has a strong enough brand behind it that
I hope they do. I gather from watching it that they compressed a lot of stuff to get down to. I mean, they had to. If they got from 20 to 8 episodes,
in order to not cut out whole characters, like side characters and stuff. Jet and
Boomy have to be
Jet,
in the same episode.
and the machinist are all in this one episode.
Yeah,
or at least most of it. I think Boomy gets more of an episode to himself, but then.
Yeah, but he's kind of introduced in there a little bit.
Yeah, I guess they all get 2 episodes themselves, because that's a 2 episode arc where Katara's dealing with Jet. They're all the team splits up to deal with these side characters almost individually.
But one of the things that I noticed, particularly in that episode, when they're compressing stuff, I didn't realize that those things were compressed into one episode, because they all mirror each other's themes so nicely. Like what she's doing with Jet mirrors what Sokka's doing with the Machinist, mirrors what It all works. I would have thought that they were written together as a single piece of a story.
Right, because and they don't have to change this overall story a lot, because what they're doing, because the original series is about this too. It's about wartime, how children have to deal with a world that is constantly been in wartime, and so you have the people that are developing weapons for. They don't think they're weapons. But to the Fire Nation, everything's a weapon.
Right.
So and you have that person rationalizing to themselves, I'm not I
helped them build an airship. There's not even any way to make it a warship.
The machinist is like Iron Man of I'm not pulling the trigger. like, why am I making arms? Like pre Tony Stark. But Jet and them are terrorists. They're like, they say they're freedom fighters, but they are hurting innocents and basically wanting the government of the Earth Kingdom to wake up and help.
Yeah, it's very much hurt people like they're
yeah. And I'm like, oh, no matter all these stories, they can weave together because they're all about war.
Yeah,
which is what the
responses to war, how it kills a part of you. And the show itself is so much about, I mean, I didn't know any of this. I'm watching it from the start. The show is so much about Aang having skipped 100 years and still being the unprepared child he was when the war started. Yeah. It's not like he fucked off for 100 years and trained and is back.
No, yeah, he gets frozen.
He gets paused and is woke back up. and I like that the show uses that to stress that 100 years of war have killed something in most of you that you need. There's a spark of hope and some naivety that's missing that you need. Yeah. And Aang being a child and Aang leaning on his friends, that's how you're going to get through this. That's a perk. Right. It's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, and to have someone like, there's no one but like, I guess Boomy remembers because he was alive back then, but like not remembering peace, like not having any reference for what peace was like.
And Boomy's insanity makes a little bit of sense just from you were a kid who grew up to be king because a lot of earthbenders died, and this kind of tension between like seeing your childhood friend, like seeing a kid that still looks exactly like he did, that reminds you of how you were when you were a kid, which just reminds you of all the pieces of yourself that you had to cut away and let die in order to make the decisions you had to make to live through 100 years of war. Like I think it's Boomy that yells at him of like, okay, the last food scraps, do they go to the soldiers or the orphans? Decide. Yeah. I'm like, damn, that's dark.
So yeah, and then so the live action series does change some things to like Boomy has more of an antagonistic relationship with Aang to hit that point harder. And
so they've only got like one episode to do it.
Yeah, so a lot of these changes are to make the story more serious.
Yeah, and it does make the story hit me in the gut. Like this feels like Kingdom or something. The war feels real and dark, and the emotional moments. I cannot remember Aang's
Gyatso.
monk. Gyatso. Those moments, oh god, in the spirit world hit me in the chest. That was hard.
That was I was impressed.
Spirit world.
Because most of the stuff, like normally when you make an adaptation and you make it shorter, you're basically just taking stuff away.
Right.
But what they add is interesting.
Yeah.
Because that Gyatso in that spirit world thing, that's totally added on. There's not a scene like that
in the cartoon.
And I thought to add that in for a final goodbye for his friend, and the moment where like, well, maybe I'll see you when I get back, and Gyatso's reaction was perfect.
He knows, and Aang doesn't.
And I thought like, what? I was like, that is a good addition.
Yeah,
that's a good place to hit it. Also, weaving Azula into the first season, I'm not against it. I think that is maybe making her the mastermind of behind Zhao is like, makes it like, oh, I think you want her to make her feel more important to everyone.
But it also kind of let Zhao be.
But it also lets Zhao be a different character than he is in the cartoon, because he's kind of boring in the cartoon. He's just he's kind
of the principal villain of the season here.
He's Jafar, he's Scar, he's the sniveling, like not as strong as everybody else, but has the
he comes off as simply opportunistic and not as smart as he thinks he is. Right. Which works great for men. It makes him a really compelling character. Like, I fucking hate him. And also, consequently, he's the one that comes closest to truly screwing our heroes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was watching this with you, and I was actually impressed. You were in love with not only just the story going forward, but you really liked, like, every time they released something about the lore of how the world worked, you were really into it.
Right. I had no idea that
you texted me like, oh shit, I love that the bending comes from the animals. That's super cool.
Or even beyond that, the waterbenders learned from the moon.
Yeah.
Like that's a cool creation myth for how all these magics work.
Yeah, and it's stuff that they're in. One of my problems with the show is that they get that all across in really big exposition dumps.
Mm-hmm.
And in the show, it's just little things added every episode.
Yeah.
Like just little things and then, but it's still cool. Like you still get it. Like,
Mhm.
and you get to enjoy it. It's not like they leave it out, which is probably
They've
worse.
got more time to pepper it through, I bet.
Yeah. And well, a lot of what my problem with the show is that I don't need Avatar to be more serious. I felt that the children viewing war was a cool part of the cartoon,
Mm-hmm.
and that despite it being goofy and funny sometimes, it didn't undercut how serious their mission and how serious the world
Mm-hmm.
was.
I think if you weren't watching the cartoon because it felt too light, this fixed that for like that, because I think that's where this clicked for me in a way that surprised you, of like, because that everything I've heard online from folks complaining about this has been, if you gave it a shot at all, is that it takes away some of the cabbage's humor of everything.
Well, it also it takes away, for me, the characters don't have time to be more than one thing.
Yeah.
Like Sokka and Katara especially are like, Katara's the mom of the group,
who is mad about her bending not quite being on, and then Sokka just has dad issues. Yeah. That's who he is for the whole season.
And most of their interactions are with other characters. Like they don't even have time to be siblings to each other a lot, I found. Like, I always thought that
they kind of just, I mean, they care about each other, but they just feel like two waterbenders you gather. They don't feel like brother sister necessarily.
How they interact in the show is like they're back and forth. Like when they could change, like if one was being too serious, the other would ask them to lighten up, and they could all the characters could change and be more than one thing without worrying about diluting their character.
Right.
And there's there's no way of getting around that with the live action series, because there's 8 episodes. We need to like fucking go.
Right.
And we need to get time to do it. And also we add in things like the assault on the Air Nation. It's pretty cool to see. I don't need to see it. I think the aftermath of it that they show later accomplishes the same thing in smaller amount of time, but I get why they showed it, because it's an opportunity to show something that
and the show's powers look, especially compared to the Shyamalan movie, the show's powers look amazing.
Also, the mystery of who Aang is in the cartoon, there's like the whole story of the Avatar and like who is Aang and Katara and them finding them, is everyone watching this is going to be pretty familiar with that, so you don't have to do the mystery of it. You can just show Aang's origin now.
Yeah.
Which is the air temple and how that went down. They also can't show Appa or Momo a lot.
Yeah.
Like honestly, in the last episode when Momo gets hurt, I had forgotten he was there.
Me too, and I was shocked at like, oh yeah, Momo, you sons of bitches, like, because like I remembered Momo was there, and then I was immediately sad that Momo was, I thought, dead, and like it was twofold. I had forgotten about Momo, and then I was shocked that I cared about it. But the show was really, I mean, for me, man, this show worked. I'm not comparing it to the cartoon, which I've not really seen. If anything, the cartoon feels like you're telling me that there's a more like detailed alt version of this that I could go watch. Cool.
Yeah.
For me, this compares against things like Shadow and Bone, or The Imperfects, or fantasy shows. Maybe even the Kingdom's way more serious, but like this fits to me more against Rings of Power or Wheel of Time or any of those that have tried to launch. Like, what are the other big fantasy epic book things? The live action of Last Airbender feels like those to me, and in that regard, it competes beautifully. I liked half of Shadow, like I loved half of Shadow and Bone, and I liked the other half, but it always felt overstuffed, like 2 shows crammed in, and we should have ditched one. Avatar doesn't feel like it has that problem for me. Like, of all the Netflixy, Amazon, let's try to launch a new Lord of the Rings, I want a second season of this one. They compressed a lot of stuff, but we all knew that they weren't going to be one and done. It's a 3-season show that runs in distinct arcs, and they, as compressed as it is to 8 episodes, they got to do that for this one too. They're going to have a season 2, and they're going to have a season 3 to finish this.
Now, the finale, I thought, like, when I watched the finale, I was like, oh shit, this is a lot of the stuff that I don't like about this series all at once.
Like several things compressed in that you didn't like?
Well, not compressed in, they add stuff that is unnecessary. Like there's a lot of detail that one or two wouldn't have bothered me, but there's a lot of detail that they add. Like there's characters are explaining things via dialogue that I don't need explained, and I know that because they didn't do it in the first one. Like they explain that they overall explain what exactly is happening with Aang and that water spirit.
Yeah.
Over explain it. Like two characters.
Two or three characters
explain it.
And it kind of drives me insane because we can always, there is no Aang anymore. Like, no, I can see him.
Yeah.
Like I can see him. His hands are moving to move the thing.
Well, also like, just let it happen. It's a cool moment without any, like, I maybe I don't know exactly what's happening, but I feel it.
Like you get it.
We're in a bad situation. The moon spirit just died. The fish spirit is mad.
The only explanation I wanted, they could have ditched all of that. The only line I wanted to keep was when Amber Midthunder, who's great casting as the princess from Prey, when she looks at Sokka and is like, no, he's not going to change back. That's just an angry spirit who's going to wander the earth forever looking for its mate, the moon, that should be in the sky. And that's the only line about it that I thought was really cool, because it added a like, oh crap. Yeah, no, he merged with a thing that's just going to walk the earth angry now.
They also add in a dagger that, and I'm like, why did they add in this random like in the show? It's just, no, you find the fish and they're mortal. You don't need and they even say they become mortal. I'm like, what's with the special dagger?
A special dagger?
I'm like, oh, it's so that one of the avatars can warn Aang about it.
Right.
And I'm like,
they took my dagger. It's nearby. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, why do they have, and they take out an aspect that is in season 2, they go to this library. And that's where Zhao found out about, in the cartoon, that's where Zhao found out, like, the library is a great example for a long-running series that has a great one-stop shop for lore. This library is where they find out about Sozin's Comet. This library is where they find out about finds out about the moon spirits. This is where a hub of information that certain people know about. And because they don't have it, they now have to have a reason. They have to explain where these pieces of information came from. And they're all separate now. And I'm like, I get why you did that, because you don't want to explain the library right now. But they didn't in the cartoon either. They just said it was.
They do jump back to the same advisor, and he's showing Zhao stuff. But I just kind of had to roll with it, because I was like, well, I don't really know who this advisor is in the Fire Kingdom or why he's talking to Zhao when this seems like the Fire Lord's private room. But it's also from there that they go and show the orrery, like with all the planet movements. But like you just kind of have to let it roll. It's
because they want to introduce the threat of Sozin's Comet, which is how the series,
the thing that hyperpowers, like
which is how the series ends, you know. And they want to foreshadow it now because we know it's going to happen, and they didn't in the cartoon because I doubt they even wrote that far ahead at that point. It's one of those, like, the difference between the first 3 Star Wars movies and every Star Wars movies, and like where they feel like they need to mention the Death Star or something from A New Hope every time. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't think we really need that. There was a lot going on without the threat of Sozin's Comet. Like, you could have left that for a later reveal.
Yeah.
Like,
and that's like the last stinger, I think.
Like,
right before the end credit.
But in the aspect of good things, I actually like that Yue, the princess, was threaded throughout the spirit world connection. That she had, like, that wasn't in the cartoon. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea to thread her earlier.
And when all of that really made sense and added up, and not quite in the same way of forgetting about Momo, but when I realized, like, oh shit, you can fix it by sacrificing yourself, and that's about the moment she freezes Sokka's feet.
Because honestly, in the cartoon, it kind of comes off as a Deus Ex Machina that she's there, like, oh, we have a spare moon spirit, like, luckily. But when they thread it through in the spirit thing, like, oh, she feels more like a thing that's been established. It's a cheat, but it's a successful way to make you feel like this was not out of nowhere. This was set up. This makes sense in the idea of the lore of spirits. I do like that, man. The world seems to know that they don't really know a lot about the spirit world, but they do know that you're not supposed to fuck with it.
Don't fuck with it. Yeah. That like there's almost no way it goes the way you think it's going to go. And I also love that the avatar that everybody thinks was a peacetime avatar that just fucked off and didn't really do anything.
Yeah.
That's really not what happened. He wasn't present on Earth or in the real physical world
in the
for
physical
much
world,
of it.
yeah.
But it's because he also thought, oh man, I'm a peacetime avatar. This really won't be that. Wait, there's a war in the spirit world encroaching? God damn it. And like he spends his whole avatarness fighting Ko, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, or things like
things like Ko.
They also add in Ko's origin, like his mom is
creepy as hell.
His mom is the spirit of identity.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's really cool with faces and individuality or something like that.
And that's why the jealousy of stealing them and yeah.
So it's kind of like, for me, season 1 of the cartoon is rough. It's a rough draft of what they want to do, and they really get it down in season 2 and cook from there. So I thought a live action series could add and take away. Like there's
like you guys, there are some things that could be fixed and refined here.
Yeah, so they had a chance to really like, oh yeah, let's shore some stuff up. And for me, it was 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Like some of the additions, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Like that's a good thing to add. And then what they take away from me that I can't, what I realized from the cartoon that I really liked is that, oh, I really like everyone's personalities. And everyone in a live action series, because they want to treat it more seriously, everyone's dial is turned down to 6.
Right. Nobody's quite as energetic as they are.
Like Aang's a kid and he acts like a kid, but he's also got he's a kid with the world on his shoulders and he's got to take a threat seriously. Mm-hmm. So they don't want him acting too goofy.
Yeah. He can't look irresponsible. And I would have gotten irritated at that.
Sokka is kind of dumb, but not like, he's not ridiculous. Like he's a warrior. He's not so good with the ladies. They get all their characters. It's not like they don't get them. They're just lighter versions of all those characters.
Yeah. It all, I mean, I definitely get how everything's going to hit different, not animated.
Like when Jet shows up later in the season 2, it's a big deal. And then for this, I'm like, if Jet shows up later, I'm like, is that going to be a big deal?
There were a couple of times when we were talking about this where you mentioned Jet and I was like, why did you bother to learn that character's name?
Yeah.
He doesn't matter.
And I was like, oh, because he's kind of a big deal in the series. There's a
Farscape where Crichton has a bit of a thing with like a tech girl, and Jet matters as much as a tech girl.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And Jet interacts with Zuko, and then the team again, and then like he's a character that is small, but kind of like it's a big deal when he comes up later because his idea of freedom, and you want to like him and you want to be on his side. And you just ultimately you can't because he just takes things too like him and his little Robin Hood merry band of gangs are. I'm like, I just don't see that, like with them coming up in the next season. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't imagine them really appearing again, except that you've already invested time if you needed a character.
But then again, season 2 has more stuff going on, so maybe they'll have. Honestly, I think they might do better of adding 2 episodes to let
this thing could have run 10 for me,
because to let some of this stuff breathe. I do like that the Northern Water Tribe is a 2-parter. At least that,
Yeah, that the big ending. When I realized that's where we were going to go, and like, okay, so the first episode will be prepping for the siege, and then the Fire Nation's going to arrive. The main problem I found in the show is that there are jokes written in the script, and even though the live action does turn everything a little more serious or change the color saturation a little, there were jokes written that they don't editing wise.
They're not edited right. Yeah,
like they're not gone, but they don't take the time to like set the camera up to really hit that punchline. And they should. I think it's a much funnier script, I think, than it's coming across.
I feel like they're afraid of the audience laughing. They don't want the audience to laugh because they want them to like, this is a serious story. And I'm like, it's okay if they laugh.
This is where I think people could say later, like, well, the live action one kind of figured it out. They were a little rough in their season 1, but then they realized not to be, they watched One Piece again and realized they don't have to be afraid of the humor, and their season 2 really sang.
I would really like for them to have the same arc as the show of really figuring out what works, and because they're going to do Toph in season 2.
That's the thing I've heard from everybody is I hope they get the casting for Toph
and
right.
Toph is legitimately one of the best characters of anything I've ever seen. She's hilarious, a badass, and the greatest. You don't turn her down. Don't turn her knob down, please. Like her being at 11 all the time. Like imagine if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was an 11-year-old girl.
Okay.
Like that's like, but all the confidence
she needs to just be hit girl then. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, nah, I'm the shit. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm afraid of turning down. But you are correct. The emotions of all the moments work. Iroh and Zuko works.
Really works.
It really works. It hits. And I was afraid of that relationship. I'm like, yep, that hits where it needs to hit. Aang and Gyatso hits Aang and Boomy, like all this relationship stuff, it's hitting. It's
and I get where they were maybe a little bit afraid of losing one or the other, and they erred on the side of caution, and they made sure that they got the emotional beats.
Yeah.
Far as final thoughts, I loved this. I was shocked how much I enjoyed watching this. Like, is this a Star War? I think this is what I'm supposed to be feeling from nostalgic properties from my youth. Because I fucking dug this. They better get a season 2. Netflix. Ugh.
Man, I can't wait. I'm like, I really want to see if I can get you to do a rewatch of, if not the whole series, at least season 1.
No, so now, like, what it did for me, and this is why I think if you didn't watch the cartoon and you don't have a bone to pick in this fight, really, don't go look at the reviews online and take those opinions as yours. You're not going to get hurt by the changes. Like, go give this show a shot. Because conversely, I fear that there are people like me who, I don't know that I would have watched this. I know this property wasn't one I'm in love with. I'm seeing a bunch of people be mad about it. Cool, that doesn't seem like my fight. Sit down and give this an episode or two. See if you dig it after seeing the powers unleashed in the first one. You're either going to be on board or you're not. I was shocked. I had goosebumps in the first episode and was like, shit, we're watching all of this.
I can't wait for you watching season 1. Hey, where's Azula? Oh man, she doesn't show up until season 2, dude.
So you kept telling me stuff like that, and I was like, see, this is why I didn't plug into the cartoon, because like I'm like, oh, that's rad. Yeah, that happens in season 3. Fuck, man, I wouldn't have made it to that. God, come on.
There's other stuff missing, like the fun relationship stuff between the core group. Like that I feel like will carry you through season 1 to probably the other stuff.
And I'm willing to give it a shot now. And that's
me, I think, the real mark of success there.
And that's really what they should be going for. I think there are folks at home who can watch this show, love it, and you might finally like go to some of your friends who've bothered you about anime and say, hey, I'm willing to watch Avatar now. And they'll be like, oh my God, finally. You can save it up, use it for a birthday or a Christmas present.
Yeah.
Actually, that's what I'm going to do for the next 5 years. I think every Christmas, I'm just going to pick an anime, and I'm just going to tell several friends, like, hey, this is what you're getting for Christmas. I'm going to grudgingly watch this. Well, I think that's about it for us now. I think everybody should go and watch a little bit of Avatar. If you want to get even more serious, you can watch some Night Country. There's some fantastic television going on right now. Despite what the split down the middle, I feel, love-hate of the live action is right now.
Yeah, but don't forget to head over to patreon.com/tvdudes to hear some bonus content like our review of Mummies Alive.
Yes, and next week we'll be back to talk about the return of our favorite propaganda show. Nathan Fillion's Rookie Season 6 has been back for a couple of episodes. Huge cliffhanger last season. We'll catch up and see what happened. I don't know if anyone at home is watching that. I hope you guys are, or at least want to hear us talk about it, because we're gonna. Until next time.
TV Dudes out.